Bro, how awesome is that where you grew up, right? Now you're going there and you're doing shows and people are coming to see you.
It's awesome. That was my second time performing at Dorton Arena, and I'll never forget, man. I was such a little boy. Like, my dad would take Matt and myself there, and I remember seeing Jushin Liger and flying Brian Pillman wearing the tiger stripe Bengal briefs.
The super small briefs.
Oh man, and I was such big fans of those guys. But it's one thing's never changed about that venue, man. It is always hot as hell out there.
Yeah,
and it was that night, and still 20 years later, it was just as hot.
Did you ever meet Brian Pillman?
I did, yeah, very, very briefly. And I never got to know him, but like a part of me wanted to. I was very young, and I was like, he just, I was kind of like mesmerized. He had that presence about him, and but I never really, I can't say that I knew him, but I did have the opportunity to meet him, and I'm very blessed for that.
What Disco? What recollection do you have of meeting Brian?
Of Pillman?
Yeah.
Oh, he's just a lunatic, bro. I was on the Pillman. Pillman would call me just randomly at like 2:00 in the morning sometimes. Just like he's nuts. He would call me and like this would be a phone call right from Pillman at 2:00 in the morning. Like the phone would ring. Hello? It's like, bro, this booty man thing's really got me pissed off. I'm like, well, what are you talking about? He goes, Hogan brings his buddy in and he steals your finish. That's bullshit. Bro, but that would be the first words out of his mouth when he called. Right. Like at 2:00, there was like, you should hear Madden tell stories about Pillman, like some of the legendary late night phone calls, everything. But bro, the guy was just like as entertaining in real life as he was on TV. So like when you go, Jeff, growing up, like who are you a fan of growing up? Like who were you like your first guys that like inspired you to get into wrestling?
Oh, like going way back, the very first two were Sting in NWA at the time, and then the Ultimate Warrior in the WWF, and like I was kind of a combination of those both. That weird world of the Ultimate Warrior, but then that outrageous, just cool charisma of Sting, and I think I was a combination of both of them. But then later on, speaking of Brian Pillman, like ECW, when Ray and Psychosis came into the picture, and their feud is like, when I think of great feuds, like they're my favorite by far. But like, speaking of ECW, that reminds me of like Pillman doing those classic vignettes, just like when he was in that restaurant. I'll never forget it, sticking a fork in his arm, and like the waiter just left and he said, "It's all the work, And that, at that time, it was strange for me, but I understood it. And but yeah, going back far, like the beginning was Warrior and Sting. But then later,
Jeff, and how weird is it that then you later find out that they both actually broke in together?
That very weird, yeah.
Yeah, and then listen to this. Let me tell you a quick Brian Pillman story. So when I first got into WCW, like in I would say maybe 1990, so we're going way back.
Yeah.
I had gone there for this international tournament. It was called the Pat O'Connor Memorial Cup. And I went there representing Mexico with Rey Mysterio's uncle. And Pillman loved, and I do mean loved, Lucha Libre. This was back in the 90s when most American guys didn't know what the hell it was. And I walked into the ring, because since I only knew how to do lucha, I had to go over my match with whoever I was going to wrestle with. And Pillman was in the ring training, and he kept going. He goes, "Do you know Super Astro?" And Super Astro's actually a guy that helped train me in Tijuana. And he was one of the best high-flying wrestlers. He's the guy that Rey Mysterio got the 619 from. And he was like, he was this little short guy, probably maybe even shorter than Ray, bro. And he was a little tank like Taz, but he could fly. Okay. And Pillman was asking me about him. And I'll never forget it, that we were doing like these Mexican moves in the ring, and Luger was like in an effeminate voice. He goes, "Oh my God, do we have to start flying around now?" And Pillman goes, he goes, "This is the first I'd ever been there." And he goes, "Don't listen to him. He's just a dick, you know?" And bro, and then Pillman, he got into, remember when, do you remember this, Jeff, when he left like, when he left WCW and they did that work thing where everybody thought it was a shoot and Glenn actually didn't. But do you remember about that or no?
I respect you, Booker man.
I'm not sure.
Okay, could you tell him about that, Di? What happened?
Bro,
It was amazing.
Yeah, remember when he was like he was supposedly a free agent in WCW and he was doing the thing like where he was going to be going. And he actually worked it into a shoot. Where he actually went to WWE, but he was like working.
Well, he went to ECW first.
I remember that. Yeah, that's what I was about to ask. He go to ECW first, then WWE.
And the way he got that to happen was they wanted to do an angle like he was on the outs with management in WCW, and he's like, "Well, we got to work everybody. You can't have the legal department thinking it's a work. So have the legal department draw up papers and release me from my contract so that everyone thinks it's real." So they released them. So they released him from his contract that he signed with WWE.
Bro, how tremendous is that? So let me tell you. But let me tell you what he did. So he called me, and he was supposed to go to. He still hadn't decided where he was going. And check this out. So he calls me and he goes, "Hey, Conan, I want to come down to Mexico," because at that time I was helping book AAA. And he goes, "I want to come down to Mexico." I go, "Bro, I don't think we can afford you." And listen to what he told me. He goes, "I don't care. I want to prove to everybody that I can work on top."
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, he bet on himself.
Right.
Yeah, right.
And he did real well. So he was he was a nut, bro. I mean, like when I was hanging out, we'd go down to Florida and we tape Jeff, I don't know if you know this, but like the WCW guys, we'd go to Orlando for like 7 to 10 days at a time and tape like 3 months worth of TV, 4 tapings a day of the syndicated stuff, right? And we all
was that when that was the round stage that would spin?
Yes. So, but Pillman would come to the room, and we would we'd watch tapes. Pillman was fascinated with Piper, okay. And this is when he was starting to do like his crazy stuff and everything. And Pillman would sit there and we'd watch and like he would go, "Hey, can I borrow these?" And he would take like 3 or 4 tapes of Piper and like just watch Piper all day in his room. Bro, the funniest thing is like I'd go to his like because I went there like I wanted the tapes, but like the VCR back to go watch him back in Canyon's room, right? So I go knock on his door, and like we'd been down there for 2 days out of like the 10 days. All right, I knock on his door. And, he had the suites that we were staying in down there. Bro, it opened the door. It looked like literally like a hurricane. Like if you open the door and a hurricane had blown into the room and blown everything all over the place. Like I'm telling you, like it looked like just like somebody had ransacked the place. And it looked like he had like 10, 15 people over there that had been there and had a party and just taken everything and thrown it and gone crazy in there. And I was like, what the? How on earth did this guy just like do this to this room in like 2 days? I'm like, he was just like a nut.
I never knew Pillman was a fan of Roddy Piper. That amazes me. That's awesome.
But yeah, and how cool is that? He liked Lucha. He liked Roddy Piper. Just super cool dude, man.
And again, I didn't know him enough to say he's a nut. I had brief run-ins with him. I think when we were jobbing or something. I remember we were there the day they announced his death and he had passed. And then I remember a fan in the crowd said, "Oh man, that's fake. It's fake." Just like wrestling, some asshole, was saying something. They did the whole 10 seconds of silence and all that, but I'll never forget that. But I have nothing, I never really got to know him. So, but yeah, I love hearing these stories. It's pretty fascinating.